Good morning. The topic for today's discussion is the Indian Contract Act 1872. Let me introduce myself. I am Dr. S.G. Balaji, Associate Professor, Miyasi Institute of Management, Chennai, Tamil Nadu. Let us discuss about the introduction of the Indian Contract Act 1872. The law relating to contract is contained in the Indian Contract Act 1872. This act is based mainly on the English common law. Most of the acts are formulated based on the principles of English common law. Same like that, the Indian Contract Act 1872 is also based on the principles of English common law. It extends to the whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. This act came into force on the first day of September 1872. This act deals with two important principles. Number one, the general principles of law of contract, that is section 1 to 75 of the act deals with the general principles of the law of contract. And the second part of this Indian Contract Act 1872 deals with some special contracts, that is section 124 to 238 deals with the provisions of special contracts. Let us discuss about these two important things in detail. So the general principles of law of contract, that is section 1 to 75 deals with the formation of contract, the essential elements of valid contract, the performance of contract, the breach of contract, the remedies for breach of contract. And the second part of the Indian Contract Act 1872, that is the special contracts, section 124 to 238 deals relating to the indemnity and guarantee, the bailment and pledge, the law of agency. So this is all a brief introduction about the Indian Contract Act 1872. Next, let's moving on to the definition of contract. Relating to the definition of contract, three important definitions are given one by one. The first important definition is the general definition, and the second definition is given by section 2H of the Indian Contract Act 1872, and the third definition is given by the author Pollack. These are all the three important definitions that we are going to discuss relating to the contract. Let's discuss one by one in detail. The first definition, general definition: a contract is an agreement made between two or more parties which the law will enforce. So if any agreement that is made or entered between two or more persons or parties, that agreement is able to be enforceable by law, that agreement automatically becomes a contract. That's what the general definition says. And the second definition given by section 2H of the Indian Contract Act says that an agreement enforceable by law is a contract. Any agreement that may be entered, that agreement is enforceable by law, that automatically becomes a contract. That is the simple definition that may be given by section 2H of the Indian Contract Act 1872. And the third definition is by the author Pollack. Pollack defines a contract as every agreement and promise enforceable at law is a contract. So any agreement and promise is enforceable at law, that can automatically becomes a contract. These are all the three important definitions that may be given relating to contract. By going through this all these three definitions, that is general definition, definition given by section 2H of the act, and definition given by the Pollack, author Pollack, there is a similarity in all these three definitions that we are going to discuss in detail. So by analyzing all these three definitions, we can able to find that the two important words are repeatedly used in all these three definitions. The first important word is agreement. So in all these three definitions, the word agreement, agreement, agreement is used. And the second important word that can repeatedly be used in all these three definitions is enforceable by law, that is enforce. So the first definition is also consist of the word enforce. The second definition is also consist of the word enforceable. And the third definition is also consist of the word enforceable at law. So without understanding these two important words, that is agreement and enforceable by law, definitely it is not possible to learn about what is agreement and what is contract in detail. So let's discuss about these two important words in detail. What is agreement and what is enforceable by law? First, let us discuss about the word agreement. So in simple sense, agreement is equal to offer plus acceptance. So in order to enter into a valid agreement, these two important things that may be required. One is the offer, another one is the acceptance. There must be two parties. So one party has to make an offer that has to be accepted by the other party. So that offer plus acceptance, what you can call as agreement. So even though if offer and acceptance is there, that automatically becomes the agreement. Apart from that, not to enter into a valid agreement, these are all the two important things that can be essential to enter into a valid agreement. The first important thing is there must be two persons. So not to enter into a valid agreement, there must be two party. One party has to make the offer that has been accepted by the other party. So without two persons or two parties, whatever may the agreement that can be entered, that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. So now to enter into a valid agreement, there must be two persons. That is one of the essentials for entering into a valid agreement. So another important word that may be used to enter into a valid agreement is consensus ad idem. It's a legal word, consensus ad idem. So what is consensus ad idem? Even though there are two parties, both the parties has to understand the subject matter in the same sense, in the same manner. So that identity of mind, what you can call as consensus ad idem. So both the parties understand the same thing in the same sense. If there is no consensus ad idem, if there is no contract, that's what the Indian Contract Act 1872 says. So whatever may the agreement that can be entered, both the parties to the agreement understand what it is in a clear sense, in a clear manner. That identity of mind, what you can call as consensus ad idem. Say for example, A entered into an agreement to sell his car to the other person B. A is having two different types of car on his own. One is Maruti, another one is Hyundai. So A made an offer by thinking in his mind that to sell his Maruti car, but he has not stated openly in the agreement. By thinking that he is going to sell Maruti car, he has made an offer to the other person B. So B also given acceptance, thinking that A is going to sell only Hyundai car. So he has given the acceptance to the other person A. In that case, the identity of mind is not there. So A has made an offer in some other sense. B has given the acceptance thinking that in some other sense. So in that case, the consensus ad idem is not there. So if there is no consensus ad idem, if there is no contract, that is the rule for entering into a valid contract. So consensus ad idem, identity of mind, both the parties has to understand the terms and conditions of the contract in a correct sense, in a correct manner. So that is what called as consensus added. So these are all the two important essentials to enter into a valid agreement. Another important word that is used in the three of the definition is enforceable by law. Enforceable by law is also be called as obligations. The other name for enforceable by law is obligations. That is the legal word, obligations. So these obligations can be of two different types. One is legal obligation, another one is social obligation. So let's going to discuss one by one in detail. What is legal obligation? What is social obligation? So the legal obligations are able to be enforceable by law. The social obligations are not able to be enforceable by law. Let us discuss what is legal obligations and what is social obligations. Say for example, A entered into contract to sell his car to the other person B for rupees 1 lakh. B also given the acceptance to buy that car for rupees 1 lakh. It's a valid contract. So this agreement what you can call as legal obligations. So legal obligations can always be enforceable by law. Social obligations cannot be enforceable by law. So let's discuss about what is social obligations. The agreements relating to social nature, the agreements relating to domestic nature is not able to be enforceable by law. Let us give an example. Say for example, a friend invited his friend B for a dinner today evening, but he fails to give dinner today evening. Because of that, B cannot file a suit against his friend A because this agreement is relating to social nature. And the agreement relating to domestic nature. Say for example, a father promised his son to pay a sum of rupees 100 as a packet money, but he fails to pay rupees 100. The son cannot file a suit against his father because this agreement is relating to domestic nature. So if any agreement which is relating to social nature or which is related to domestic nature, that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. That is what is called as social obligations. So let us discuss this terminology once again clearly. The agreements relating to legal obligations are enforceable by law. The agreements relating to social obligation is not able to be enforceable by law. So if it is not enforceable by law, it may not become a contract, it's only an agreement. So let's move on to the other part, that is the conclusion part. So finally we can able to conclude that from the above, we conclude that two or more persons enter into an agreement. That agreement is enforceable by law. It becomes a contract. So simply we can say that based on this, contract is equal to agreement plus enforceable by law. If any agreement that can be entered, that agreement is able to be enforceable by law, that can automatically becomes a contract. If agreement is not able to be enforceable by law, it's only an agreement, it is not a contract. So when the agreement is able to be enforceable and not able to be enforceable, the agreements which is relating to legal obligation is enforceable by law. The agreements relating to social obligation is not able to be enforceable by law. So based on that, we can say that contract is equal to agreement plus enforceable at law. And based on that, we conclude that all contracts are agreements, but all agreements are not contracts. So if all contracts consist the word agreement, the agreement is enforceable by law, then only that can becomes a contract. The agreement is not able to be enforceable by law, it is only an agreement, it is not a contract. So you can conclude that all contracts are agreements, but all agreements are not contracts. Let's move on to the next slide. Essential elements of a valid contract. In order to enter into a valid contract, Section 10 of the Indian Contract Act 1872. An agreement must have the following essential elements. The 9 essential elements of valid contract are: the first important element, offer and acceptance. The second essential element, intention to create legal relationship. The third essential element, lawful consideration. The fourth important essential element, capacity of parties or competency. The fifth important essential element, free and genuine consent. The sixth essential element, lawful object. The seventh essential element, agreement not declared void. The eighth essential element, certainty and possibility of performance. The ninth essential element, legal formalities. So whatever the agreement that can be entered, that agreement should consist of all these nine essential elements. Then only the agreement is able to be enforceable by law. In the absence of any one of the element, that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. So let us discuss these nine essential elements one by one in detail. First, let us discuss about the first important essential element, offer and acceptance. So what is offer and acceptance? As already discussed in earlier slides, introduction part, in order to enter into a valid contract, there must be two parties. One party has to make the offer and that has been accepted by the other party. So once it is accepted, it can automatically becomes a promise. So a person who is making the offer is called offeror and the person who is giving the acceptance is called acceptor or promisor. So without offer and without acceptance, whatever may the agreement that can be entered, that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. So offer and acceptance is one of the essential elements to enter into a valid contract. And the second important essential element to enter into a valid contract is intention to create legal relationship. There are two parties there are two parties essential to enter into a valid contract. The intention of both the parties must be to create some legal relationship between them. So if any agreements which are relating to domestic nature or social nature, it's not a legal relationship. The intention of both the parties is not to create a legal relationship. That the agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. So whatever may the agreement that can be entered, intention of both the parties must be to create some legal relationship. The actions of legal relationship, whatever may the agreement that can be entered, that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. And the third important essential elements to enter into a valid contract is lawful consideration. So what is consideration? The other important word or terminology that can be used for consideration is quid pro quo. That is a legal word or terminology that can be used, quid pro quo, or it can also be called as something in return. So what is lawful consideration or something in return or quid pro quo? There are two parties in case of entering into a valid contract. Both the parties must give something in return to the other party. If one party can give something to the other party has to give something in return to the other one. That something in return, what you can call as consideration. Let's give an example. Say for example, A entered into a contract to sell his bike to the other person B for rupees 50,000. B also given the acceptance to buy that bike from A for rupees 50,000. So A has made an offer, B has given an acceptance. So what A is getting and what B is getting? So B is getting the bike, A is getting some of rupees 50,000. That something in return, what you can call as consideration. So whatever may the agreement that can be entered, there must be something in return. If one party can give something, the other party has to give something in return. That something in return, what you can call as lawful consideration. The Indian Contract Act 1872 can clearly says that if there is no consideration, if there is no contract. So the another important essential element to enter into a valid contract is capacity of the parties, or it can also be called as competency of the parties. So what is capacity of the parties or competency of the parties? Both the parties, there are two parties essential to enter into a valid contract. So both the parties must have some capacity or competency to enter into a valid contract. So what are the capacity that may be required as per the Indian Contract Act 1872 is the first important capacity to enter into a valid required in order to enter into a valid contract is the person is of the age of majority. That is, a person who is entering into the valid contract must be a major. It should not be a minor. So whatever the contract that can be entered into a minor is not able to be enforceable by law. So to whom we are entering into contract, that person must be a major. Both the parties must be a major. So is of the age of majority. That means the person should have completed 18 years of age. So he can be called as a major. So then only that agreement is able to be enforceable by law. And the second important competency or capacity that is required to enter into a valid contract is the person must be of sound mind. So what is sound mind? There are two parties required in order to enter into a valid contract. Both the parties must be of sound mind. So how we can able to judge or find that the person is in sound mind or that the person is in unsound mind? So for that, the clear definition that is given by the Indian Contract Act 1872, at the time of entering into a contract, both the parties must able to read and understand the terms and conditions of the contract in a clear manner. After reading the terms and conditions of the contract, so you can able to form the rational judgment what will be the effects of the contract. In that case, we can say that the person is in sound mind. Suppose if a person is not able to read, and even though if he has read, he may not able to understand what it is, and he may not able to think what will be the effect of this agreement later on. In that case, we can say that that particular person is in unsound mind. Overall, the persons who can be called as persons of unsound mind, one is idiot, another one is lunatic, another one is drunken or intoxicated person. These are all the three categories of person who can be called as persons of unsound mind. So the person at the time of entering the contract, the person must be of sound mind. That is another important competency that can be required to enter into a valid contract. The another important competency that can be required to enter into a valid contract is the person should not be disqualified by any laws of our country. So at the time of entering into a valid contract, to whom that you are entering into contract, that is both the parties should not be disqualified by the existing laws of our country. That means he should have not been committed any of the crimes. If he has committed any crime, if he is undergoing the imprisonment under the existing laws of our country, that person can be treated as person disqualified by law. So if any contract agreement that can be entered into the person disqualified by law, that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. So not to enter into a valid contract, these are all the competencies that can be required. Three important competencies that can be required. First one is of the person is of the majority, and the person should be of sound mind, and the person should not be disqualified by any laws of our country. These are all three important competencies that can be required to enter into a valid contract. And the other important essential element of a valid contract is free and genuine consent. So what is free and genuine consent? So at the time of entering into contract, at the time of entering into a valid agreement, both the parties would have given their consent freely and genuine. That means without any force, without any threatening, or without any compulsion. Both the parties would have agreed for that agreement in freely. That is what means free and genuine consent. So what is the uh, what are all things that can leads to free and genuine consent means? The first one is coercion. Coercion means threatening, compelling, forcing. So if one party can compel or threaten the other person, and he has made me to enter into a contract agreement, means that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law, because that is a coercion. Coercion means threatening. By threatening, because of threat, he has agreed to enter into that agreement or contract. That agreement is not able to be enforceable. And another important thing is undue influence. The another important thing is undue influence. Undue influence means there are two parties uh, to enter into a valid contract. One party may be in a superior position, the other party may be in a dominant position. By using his superiority, he can dominate the will of the other person. So in that case, the undue influence is said to be employed. In that case, the agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. So another important thing is fraud. By fraud, So by fraud, you can made the other person to enter into contract, means that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. Another one is misrepresentation. Misrepresentation means hiding of facts, concealment of fact. So if the if because of misrepresentation the other party would have entered into contract, means that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. So the free and genuine consent consists of four important things. One is coercion, another one is undue influence, another one is fraud, another one is misrepresentation. So if any one of these four is employed or used to enter into a valid agreement, means in that case the consent is not said to be free and genuine, so that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. Another important essential elements to enter into a valid contract is lawful object. So whatever may be the agreement that can be entered, the object of that agreement must be a legal one. So the object of that agreement is illegal, or it is immoral, or which is opposed to public policy, that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. Say for example, A paid a sum of rupees 1 lakh to the other person B to kill the other person C. So B also accepted for that. So the main object of that agreement itself is illegal. So as per Indian Penal Code, IPC, killing, kidnapping, these are all the things that can strictly be prohibited, and it is considered as an offence as per Indian Penal Code. So the main object of that agreement itself is illegal one. So whatever may the agreement that can be entered, the object of the agreement must be legal. It should not be immoral. It is not opposed to public policy. So then only that agreement is able to be enforceable by law. So that is one lawful object. Another important essential element for a valid contract is agreement not declared void. So void means the agreement which is not able to be enforceable by law is called void. So in certain cases, at the time of entering the agreement, that is able to be enforceable. After entering the agreement, the agreement is not able to be enforceable, or certain agreements that can be declared as void from the beginning, that is at the time of entering the agreement itself, it is not able to be enforceable. So if any agreement that is not declared void, that agreement is not a valid contract. So next one is another important essential element of valid contract is certainty and possibility of performance. So what is certainty and possibility of performance? So whatever may be the agreement that can be entered, the meaning of that agreement must be specific, definite, clear. So that is only certainty. So say for example, A entered into an agreement to supply 1,000 liters of oil to the other person B. B also agreed to buy for certain price. So in this case, what kind of oil that is going to supply, that is not clearly mentioned. Whether he is going to supply groundnut oil, or whether he is going to supply coconut oil, or whether he is going to supply sunflower oil, or whether he is going to supply crude oil, or whether he is going to supply other kind of oil, that is not clearly mentioned. So in that case, the meaning of that agreement is not certain, specific, definite. So in that case, the contract is not able to be enforceable by, that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. So whatever may the agreement that can be entered, the meaning of that agreement must be certain, specific and definite. That is one called as certainty. If it is not certain, that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. Another one is possibility of performance. Same like that, whatever may the agreement that can be entered, the agreement is possible to perform, or it is able to be done by both the parties. If it is not possible to perform, or it is not possible to execute that contract, means that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. Say for example, A entered in an agreement with the other person B, if you pay sum of rupees 1 lakh, I will bring rain within 5 minutes. Is it possible? It's clearly known that it is highly impossible, because raining is a purely a natural calamity. It's not in our hand. We are not God. So it's clearly known that it is highly impossible. So if any agreement that can be entered to do certain impossible things, impossible acts, impossible events, that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. So it must be possible to perform by both the parties. That is what called as possibility of performance. So certainty and possibility is also the another important essential element of a valid contract. And the last important essential element of a valid contract is legal formalities. Apart from this above 8 important elements what I have discussed, the last important element is legal formality. Whatever may the agreement that can be entered, the agreement should fulfill certain legal formalities. So what are the legal formalities that has to be fulfilled? The agreement should properly written in a paper or stamp paper, whatever it may be, and it should properly be dated, and it should properly be signed by both the parties who are entering into the agreement, and it should properly be registered as per the existing laws of our country. These are all the other legal format that has to fulfill. It should properly be written, dated, signed, and registered. In the absence of any one of the legal formality, whatever may the agreement that can be entered, that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law. So whatever may the agreement that can be entered, that agreement should fulfill all these 9 essential elements. Then only the agreement is able to be enforceable by law, then only it can become a contract. In the absence of any one of the element, that agreement is not able to be enforceable by law, that agreement is not a valid agreement. So these are all the 9 essential elements that has to be fulfilled or that has to be carried out to enter into a valid contract. So we had discussed about the introduction of the Indian Contract Act 1872, and we had discussed about the definition of Indian Contract Act 1872. At the time of discussing this definition of Indian Contract 1872, so we have discussed about the two important words that is used in the all the three definitions. One is agreement, another one is enforceable by law. So we have discussed in detail about what is agreement, what is enforceable by law, and we have discussed about the essential elements of a valid contract, 9 essential elements of a valid contract. I hope that this session would definitely be useful to understand the concept of Indian Contract Act 1872. Thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to present the session on the Indian Contract 1872. Thank you. Thank you very much.